I'm going to do the thing no one does and start bang on time. Kia ora, ko Naomi toku ingoa, he uri ahau no Ngāti Raukawa. I tau o ko tupuna mai i te rohi o Liverpool. My name is Naomi Merien. I'm a member of the NDF board and I'm here to steer you through our last session and introduce Dr. Morgane Merien, who will be talking today about museum tours virtually, but also just told me that she only became doctor 2 months ago, so I'm just going to say congratulations because that's a huge achievement.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to put questions into the Slido, I'll be looking after that, so we will be having Q&A, and if you want to ask in person, I can also run around with a microphone, so I'll be here for you.
No. So, kia ora koutou, ko Morgane toku ingoa. So, hello, my name is Dr. Morgane Merien. I'm a science and curatorial communicator at Canterbury Museum. And today I'd like to talk to you about a project that I've been kind of working on for about a year now. And it's how to make a virtual tour when you're the only person working at it in your museum. So this is kind of, instead of, you've seen how people can do it when they spend $1 million, 500,000 US dollars. This is how you can do it by yourself. So I'll give you a little bit of context. So Canterbury Museum was opened in 1867, and so for the past 150 years or so, it has been telling stories about Waitaha Canterbury to its communities. However, in April, we closed our doors to the public. We have now entered a major redevelopment project that is going to take about 5 years, and so we have had to move out 2.3 million items out of the museum and decant all of the galleries, so you get a couple of pictures that show this. And this is all to make way for this new building, which hopefully will be beautiful. It'll be a lot better in terms of space, and because we've run out of space, like many museums around the world. We also have another problem in Canterbury, is that there are earthquakes, so we need to earthquake-proof it. We need to do base isolation. We need better storerooms, because the way that the museum was built means that it's literally a maze. When I first started at the museum, it took me a long time to not get lost. But so, also means that the heritage parts of the building will be completely preserved and actually shown off better. And so, while there's nothing quite like setting foot inside of a museum and being able to see artifacts and specimens and taonga in person, it's not always possible to visit. And that is now currently the problem that we are faced with. So, one idea that my colleagues and I have been talking about since I got at the museum is the use of virtual reality. This digital tool has been used quite extensively in the GLAM sector, especially during the COVID lockdown. We saw a huge jump in that. And when you kind of Google virtual reality, you just get a whole lot of everything. There's all sorts of levels, from just, you know, this is the arts and culture one from Google, and that's kind of very much Google Street View. Well, they'll come into your museum and do it for you. And then you've got 360 videos. That one is from Te Papa. This is Pukeariki, so that's a semi-immersive one. And then this is one at the Louvre, which is a complete 3D rendering that they've done. So you can very much do a whole lot, depending on how much time and money you're willing to spend. However, time and money was something that we did not have, because when I suggested this to the museum, that's what we were really running out of, and if I was going to do this, I needed quite a cheap and quick option. And so there is a format that we were quite into, which is a semi-immersive virtual reality. And this is kind of a 3D space or virtual environment in which you can kind of move around, either through a computer with a mouse and keyboard or a mobile device by touching and swiping around the place. However, there's no characters, and you don't control, you can only control the view on your own. Another important aspect that we really wanted was to be able to curate that space. So we wanted to be able to add labels and photos, videos, and that narrative that really enriches a visit and makes a visit to a museum. That was an important requirement for us. We didn't really want just a Google Street View type thing. And so one of my other colleagues happened to look at this seminar and sent it my way, and I thought, this is amazing. This is exactly what I want. So this is these lovely people from the Govert Brewster and Puke Ariki, and in this, they told me exactly how to do it. And I was like, yes, I've got the recipe at my fingertips. So then the next part of it was just to write a proposal and get my upper-ups to agree with it. Thankfully, they said yes. And so from then on, it was quite literally game on. We kind of had two options as for what technology requirements we had. We could either go through with the DSLR and the 360 camera tripod mount, or a 360 camera. The 360 camera is really good because you just set it up, you go out of the room, you just press a button and it records immediately, and that's that. However, we felt that the DSLR had a better quality and higher resolution, which is what we wanted. However, it's a lot more intensive because it's manual. You've got to be at the camera, and you kind of have to stand there around and around and take the pictures. We didn't have time to find a way to automate it. I'm sure there's probably a way, but so we went with the DSLR and the 360 camera tripod mount, and then that was my life for the next few months. I was literally racing against the clock because in a day I would do a whole gallery, I would photograph a whole gallery, and then they were, once I was done, everybody was coming in after me and packing it up, quite literally. They were waiting on me. So I had a total of 13 galleries to do. And some of them are small, some of them are huge. Not only that, but I also had to do this when there was no one around. So I either had to come in early in the morning or stay late at night. So if you've never known what night at the museum is like, you can give this a go and it'll be fun. And so you can see the camera here on the 360 mount. And with a colleague of mine called Liam, who's a photographer, so that was very helpful because, like I said, I have no knowledge of this. I went into this blind. I just thought, do you know what? All the resources are online. I could probably give it a go. I'm a really good researcher. And so we figured out the optimum amount of photos that we can take, the minimum, while still getting that kind of 360 panorama. And then you take that in your spot, and that becomes your step in your virtual reality tour. So then you can kind of control how many steps the visitor takes throughout the gallery. So you can go all out and take as many steps as you want, or you can kind of keep it quite streamlined. The one thing that would be great would be to do this, take it away, create it, and then test it and see, well, we can add one more here. I didn't have that luxury. I just had to kind of go with my gut feeling and kind of go, all right. I did for quite a few of the bigger galleries go around with a curator, and I just, where do I go? Where is ideal? What do I not photograph? Because there are also certain parts of galleries that are quite sensitive that we do not want to photograph, that we could if we had more time, but we just do not have the permissions yet. And so there was a lot of thoughts about that as well that I had to kind of preempt a bit. Whew, I'm sweating. This is my first time presenting at NDF, by the way.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Right, so I took all my 360 photos, all 39 of them for each node, and then I stitched them in this software called PT GUI, and this is how you stitch your panoramas together. And so that is actually really good. So this software, you do have to pay for it. There is a free version, but if you want the higher level, you do have to pay for it. It's $200 or so for the year, so it's Not too bad. It's not $500,000 yet. We're not quite there yet. And it is the industry standard software at the moment. After this, we take all our panoramas that have been stitched and we put them in this software called Pano 2 VR. So this software is where you build your tour in. It's easy-ish to use in that there is a lot of tutorials online. That was one of the main attractions about doing this project and going with this software, is that there is a lot of resources, there's a forum, there's tutorials online. And the other aspect that we really liked is that you can customize literally everything. You can customize what your buttons look like. You can choose where you put in images or text or things like that. So that was really important for us. And the output that's created from that software can be hosted then on your website and can be embedded in it. And so down here at the bottom, when you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 panoramas, those are your steps, your nodes. And so for this virtual tour, it's only 4 nodes, so that's fine. I had some galleries that were 33 nodes, and that's me trying to be quite streamlined. So these are still works in progress. Does that work? So this is kind of a video showing you what they currently look like. So at the moment, I'm creating them, and I am also consulting with our curators as well as our educators about what type of curation they would like in this, because you can add a whole lot of information. You can add photos everywhere, you can add labels everywhere. Yeah, gives you an idea. You can add videos and music, interviews from people as well. So you can take your gallery as it was and actually kind of add another layer that you could enhance it in some ways. You can kind of go back on it. So this is our old discovery area, which no longer exists. So this is also going to kind of end up being quite an archive for quite a few people, especially in Canterbury, that have used to, go to this for years and years and years. Here is the other one I'm working on. This is the PowerShell House, quite an iconic exhibit, quite an iconic place from Bluff that we've had at the museum for quite a while. I don't know if you can hear the music. Yeah, that music is also iconic. It almost drove me crazy, but it's fine. So when you step into the PowerShell house, you hear that music. So you can customize everything. If I don't want a map, I can remove the map. If I, all of those buttons down there, I can remove them as well. So that's quite fun, actually. So don't judge this too harshly. It's still ongoing curation. So the positives that I've found with this, with these virtual tours, one of them has been the use for outreach. So they can be used for outreach for audiences that don't live in Christchurch or don't live here anymore, as a way for them to revisit some of their favorite galleries. And this can be continuously updated on our museum as things come and go as well. In terms of accessibility, it's also quite useful and important. It means that people that maybe can't come to the museum are able to still have access to it. It also is useful for people that are planning a visit to the museum. We do have quite a few visitors that often need to know the exact layout, need to know where things are, so this is really useful for them as well. In terms of education, this is also really useful for our educators. At the moment, they can't do classes in the museum like they used to. So they're going out to schools. So we will be able to send them these virtual tours either as a pre or post visit, as material that they can kind of look through. And we can actually also cater the virtual tours to be for the educators. So we can hide Easter eggs in the virtual tours. We can put in questions that the students need to go and find and have answers ready for when our educators get here. Another aspect is the promotional aspect of it. These can also be used to advertise future exhibitions. You can, as you say, customize them. So you don't have to show the whole exhibition. You can show 1 or 2 nodes. That can be a teaser to kind of encourage future visitors to come and visit the museum physically. And then preservation. That was one of the really important ones for us, is that we needed to have an archive of what the museum looked like before we've removed everything. We've got a whole lot of photos, but actually virtual tours give you a really good sense of the space and how things were put out and fit. And that will be really quite important for some of the places like the Christchurch Street, which some people want back exactly the same. So that's not up to me, but you know. And the last one is future exhibits. That will be a really, really good tool that we can implement in our future galleries, especially if we can have, you know, a screen that's digitally there in the space. Or another one that I really enjoyed was being able to see artists' studios when you do art exhibitions and things like that. So the possibilities are quite literally endless. The negatives. It is time heavy, especially if you're doing it by yourself. Maybe if you're in a team, it will be better. Let me know how that goes. But it does take a while, especially learning the website. I'm not that tech savvy, but you know, I was able to create that by myself. So if I can do it, I feel like anybody can do it. Like I said, there's a whole lot of tutorials online. It is reliant on technology, so you do need the DSLR, you do need the mount, you do need to pay for the software. But once you have it, you've got that knowledge in-house, and that's really powerful, I feel. And then the last one is just technical hiccups. The lighting was one I found to be quite difficult, because every single gallery's got different lighting. Some places, you've got little objects that are really lit up, and then the rest of the space is completely dark, and that makes photography really, really difficult, because when the lighting changes all the time, then stitching all of those together is not fun. So for 1 or 2 of the galleries, I actually ended up having to tell them if they could put on the overhead lighting for me, the cleaning lights. And then the last one is that also you need no one to be there in that space, so that can be a constraint as well, depending on where you work, the museum. That was a constraint for me. Yeah, and that's kind of, let me finish, where was I? So yeah, these tours are works in progress. My next step is continuing to collaborate with the curators and the educators to kind of add more content and context to the tours. Our ultimate goal would be to install a VR headset at some point. That's another kind of aspect of that software, is that you can actually take these virtual tours and put them into a VR headset and be able to click through. We've got a pop-up museum at the moment, so it is currently something that's being considered to be put in there as a kind of a throwback to the old museum as we continue through our redevelopment project. And I just would love to connect with other people who are kind of maybe are going through the same thing or are kind of creating their own virtual tours. I'd love input and I'd love advice. As I said, I'm completely new to this. I've very much thrown myself in this. And so I'd love to hear your ideas, recommendations, opinions. Thank you to my colleague Liam Dangerfield, that's who helped me with the photography and also started the project with me, and then left me on my own because he had to do decant. And a shout out to Nick Sete Ducado also for his great advice and help on doing all this. He kind of kick-started all of this. Without him, would not be here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's actually a really good reminder for us all that sometimes quick and cheap is actually great. We've got one question on the Slido, which is, did you make a tour when the museum was empty but had street art?
Do you know, my manager asked me 2 weeks before we were about to finish, Morgane, can you go around and do this? The thing is, when there was the street art, I don't know if anybody saw the street art exhibit that we had on, that was 3 times the size of what just the galleries was, because it was also, what are they called, like back of house and all those spaces. So it would have taken me so long. I would have loved it. But there was also the other constraint, is that the artists, not all of them, but the majority of them, kind of took on that project with the knowledge that this was meant to be ephemeral and that it was not meant to last. And actually, when we all vacated, we painted over everything. So,
a technical question, did you consider Matterport at all?
Yes, and it is something I'm still considering. I would love to also just include 3D objects in the virtual tour so that you can pull it up and have kind of those things in there. So yeah, I want to do it all.
That was a question for me. Did you consider the Matterport cameras to make it easier to take those photos? I know those were too proprietary.
I'm just going to repeat that so it's captured. So did you consider using the Matterport cameras at all? Or is it too proprietary?
And also, amazing job on that.
Thank you.
And you did a great job. I'm going to get that for the video.
I had a quick look at them, but in the end, we already had the DSLR. And so actually the cheapest option for us was just to get the mount. And because we saw that the quality with the DSLR was quite good, we do also have a 360 camera already, a 1X, one of those ones. So yeah, it's something that we can revisit. That's the kind of the other side of all of this, is that technology moves so quickly. That was one of the worries, actually, is this going to be still relevant in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years? But because the purpose of this was to also archive our galleries, it was thought of in the end to still go for it. So, yeah.
Could you give us an indication of the overall cost of creating the tour? Or tours?
Right. So the software is about $400 for both together, if I'm adding them together. The mount was about $500. And then the cost of a DSLR. And then me. That's about it, really. Just be tenacious. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So that was about it, really. I'm sure if you've got multiple people working on it, it goes a lot faster. Maybe Nick can tell me more. Yeah. But in the end, it was probably cheaper than hiring an external company to come in and do it. They probably would have been quicker. But the other important part of this is that we wanted to retain the knowledge of how to do this. So we wrote everything down. We've got the equipment. Anybody else in the museum can pick it up and go ahead and make one as well.
And where do you host / use the content that you captured?
So the content right now is on our servers, so it will be put out on the museum website. So that's, it's going to be in there.
Does anyone have any questions that they don't want to put through the app that they want me to run a microphone to them? Oh, cool. I'll just, here you go. Otherwise it won't be captured.
All right. I work at Christchurch Art Gallery, and we've used the same software and done tours, but one of the issues we've had is with more painting-based exhibitions is copyright.
Yeah.
So 90% might be fine, and then you get to a Ralph Hotry and you've got to deal with a whole bunch of specific copyright for that piece, and so it kind of renders the whole thing.
Yeah, and you've got to blur some stuff out or things like that.
Yeah, but it's not ideal. I'd say for people to think about before you start and spend a lot of time, because it does take quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and that is one of the reasons why I went around with curators to kind of help me, is this okay to do? At the museum, all of the objects are ours, so that's okay, and a lot of them that are on display are already on collections online as photos there anyway, so we still retain the copyright. For visiting exhibits, that would be a completely different matter, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point actually around copyright and artist rights. We do still have 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? And if not, I'm going to put my fellow board member Nick on the spot. Hi, Nick. Did you want to come up and maybe just comment? We've just got 5 minutes, and you've been mentioned. I know he's looking at me like, how dare you do this to me? But I actually think, given that you provided so much of the information. Oh, I've got a question. I'll run up there first. Don't think you're off the hook, Nick. I'm coming. If you don't mind using the mic, that'd be great.
I just wanted I guess you answered the question when you said the things hosted on your website. It's not a standalone file that you produce. You need something on the website to play it? Or is it just something... Yeah, you can answer that.
Sorry, just so it's captured.
The output is like an HTML file with there's like folders with all the stuff in it, and I just hand that off to the website people, and I tell them, look what I made.
We've used this stuff internally. It basically generates a mini website with its own JavaScript file and stuff, but all the assets are there, and they've written a JavaScript library that renders it all. So it's all standalone. The great thing is it ends up being open. So unlike some proprietary stuff, someone can use this 20 years in the future, which is, I think, a really good thing.
You can't just share
It'll be a series of folders. It'll be a series of files.
What would the EDA change?
A zip file of them.
Any other questions? Comments from Nick?
I can just comment on great job, Morgane. And there's a couple of things that came up about the technology advancing, and I think one of the things is the photography is still useful. You see, you can reuse it in virtual reality, and there's technologies now where you could take these images and actually recreate 3D scenes. But in terms of sharing one image, it's more like a website. The image that Morgane showed earlier about the stitched image, you could share that. We archive those when we do this, so you have these high res. They just look funny until they're mapped into a 360 space. So that's kind of the asset that you could share with someone, but you need that series of folders with the stuff in it.
Kia ora. Well, I think if there's no more questions, I think we should give Morgane another big round of applause for an amazing presentation. And release you all for afternoon tea.